Hey bestie, what is up? We know what we're here for. I got some books that I want to talk to you about that I read in February. And listen, these books, there was like a mix. There was some fantasy, there was some romance, there was some serial killers, there was some OCD going on. Yeah, it's crazy. So let's start talking about these books. And bestie, you know what I forgot to talk to you about last month? I forgot to talk to you about how much cash back I earned for the books I read. And if you're new here and you're wondering, what? Cash back for books you read? Well, then check out my reading challenge and you can find out more about it. So last month I gave myself $15 cash back. Make sure you make it to the end of the video so you can find out how much cash back I earned this month. So bestie, the first book that I am going to tell you about is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. This book was part of my book club read for the month of February. And listen bestie, if you're new here and you're not part of our book club, the link is down below, so make sure you join. But after we finish talking about these books, all right? So for this one, I really enjoyed the writing and the world building. Like, the author did a pretty good job with building this Arabian world, and once it came together, it was just like sort of like magical in a sense. It kind of like, anytime I end up reading something that's like Arabian, and I believe this is like the second or third book that I read that's like in Arabia or any kind of like Middle Eastern area of the world. Yeah. I always think back to Aladdin. With this one, although there's not a genie, but there is a magical system going on here. So I really became interested in the magic system in this, and I'm hoping that the author gives me more of that in the next book, because in this one it kind of just like tapped into it but didn't really fully go in depth with it. Like, of course it's mentioned in the beginning and like sprinkled throughout, and then I believe like midway or like 25% in or something to that effect, it gets like more magic heavy but not really heavy, if that makes sense. This one is told in dual POV. We getting the point of view of Safira and Nasir. The only complaint that I do have with that is that for me, I do prefer like when the chapters are specific to those characters. I prefer when it's like that, because when I get like the POVs mixed together, I kind of get confused. I felt like there were moments where it kind of just like jumped all over the place. The plot was pretty predictable for me. I felt like it was the typical, you know, like plots and things that go on in YA. But at the same token, there was some things that were different because of like the culture aspect and being in Arabia and the language. And speaking of the language, that was something that kind of bothered me in a sense, because it was pretty hard to pronounce things, and there really isn't any like footnotes or any like glossary in the back where it could kind of like explain what that means or what's going on, because even though sometimes you could make out what it might mean, but I would have loved it if we got a glossary or some kind of footnotes in here that said what those words mean, how to pronounce them. Because at the end of the day, bestie, let's be real, do you really want to stop reading to look up these things? No. This is why they need to make it easier for us as readers, right? Like, we need a glossary, especially when it's something that's cultural, that's, you know, not part of our own culture. So I would have loved to see that, and maybe if they like reprint it or something, we could get that. It also took me a bit to get into this story, because in the beginning, like, I literally felt like I had to push through it, because if I'm being honest, bestie, I felt a little bored in the beginning. And the characters, they were just, I didn't really care for them like that. And even by the end, I did find like a little bit of interest. However, it still was just left me not really caring for them. And that kind of sucked. because I love being able to connect with my characters. And I just couldn't with this one. I didn't really vibe with the whole enemies to lovers in this. I don't know. For me, it just kind of felt like the romance plot was forced. I felt like it was just there for the sake of having like some kind of romance going on. And I can't stand when fantasy books have this, because it's like not every fantasy needs a romance. So if you felt like you had to force it in there and just like throw it in, just leave it out. It's okay. We'll live. Like, it's okay not to always have a romance plot in fantasy, you know?
As if.
I didn't care to ship them, you know? It just wasn't it, okay? It just wasn't it. So I really would have probably like rated this higher. However, I just couldn't get like past all the things that I disliked about it and how it made me feel and how bored I was at times with this. And I can understand why so many people like this one, but to be quite honest, it kind of missed the mark for me. But what I will say is that I am planning to read the second one, because this is a duology, and see how I feel about the second one. So another book that I was able to read last month is The Death of Vivekoji by Akwake Imezi. And I mean, I don't really need to explain too much about what this is about, because the title says it all, you know? However, what I will say is that anything this author writes, I immediately want to pick it up and devour it, because I absolutely love this. This book was a beautiful story about family, friendship, identity, and self-discovery. Imezi was able to make me feel things through the words that she wrote, but pairing this with the audiobook made it come to life. The audiobook had multiple narrators for each point of view, which made the reading experience so much more compelling. And besides how compelling it was such an important read full of rich cultural views, unforgettable characters, heartbreak, and so many thought-provoking topics. Like, I found myself thinking so much while reading this. And listen, bestie, there's so much more that I can say about this one, but I just rather you pick it up, because let me tell you, it is worth your time. So bestie, I was also able to read another manga last month, and this one is 10 Count Story and Art by Rihito Yakarai. Takarai. Why did I say Yakarai? Why? Listen, we're just gonna forget about that. The premise of this story is pretty promising. I mean, you get a man that's dealing with OCD and a therapist that wants to help him for some reason. Like, I mean, you might be thinking, but Jeannie, it's a therapist. Of course he wants to help him. No, but I felt like when I was reading this, there was probably something more to that, you know? I really loved how this took like a fresh look on mental health, which is something that for me, I've never came across in manga. So the art in this was pretty simple, but what I really loved about it is that you can get a sense of like what each character is feeling and their personalities just through the art. And speaking of the characters, I felt like the characters were very likable and complex. They kind of like drew me in and made me more invested in finding out more about them and knowing their story, or like how they got to where they're at. It was really nice to see the romance slowly build in this. And I'm really hoping that in the next one, I get to see more of that, because I don't know, but I really like where it's going, and yeah, I want to know more. I was also able to read 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. And bestie, let me tell you, this was so good. The author was able to take Western and Asian culture and kind of like blend it in such a way that for me, I felt it made the storytelling so magical. The way that the writing flowed, it kind of felt like if I was entranced and lulled into like this magical world that Elizabeth Lim created. The characters in this, they were so likable. I found myself laughing out loud over the type of relationship that Shiori and her brothers had. I found those moments so relatable, especially having a brother myself. The two characters that I found myself mainly drawn to is Kiki the paper crane and Megari. Kiki was such a fun and like, I don't know, it was just so magical to get to know Kiki. Especially just that, being the fact that she's a paper crane. And then Megari, I loved her because she had some spunk and sass. The plot was pretty promising in the start, but then I kind of felt like it kind of died out once Shiori and her brothers got cursed, which in a sense, I did find myself getting a little bit bored in certain points in the story because of that. There was a part that I was able to predict in this. However, once the story started to pick up and secrets were uncovered, I was taken by surprise. Like, I definitely did not see what happened here coming, like, at all. And bestie, did you know that this was a duology? Because I sure didn't. To tell you the truth, that ending has me invested. I really want to find out more. And I can't read? I can't wait to read the next one. So another book I was able to read is Somebody's Daughter by Ashley C. Ford. And let me tell you, bestie, Ashley touched on some topics that really hit home for me. Like an absent father, minus the incarceration, questioning your identity, not really loving your body because of the way grown men make you feel, and the complexities of familial relationships. The thing is, I felt that this book kind of left my cup half full. I really wish that it was longer, especially because of all the subject matter that the author shares. It just really left me wanting more. I also wish that the author would have went more in depth about the relationship she had with her incarcerated father. It kind of felt like the topic on her father was kind of like tiptoed over, and I felt like there was just so many things that could have been explored further. Which, that leads me to the marketing part. This is definitely a victim of faulty advertising. The synopsis leads you to believe that this memoir is about Ashley's relationship with her incarcerated father. Yet, it really just skimmed that topic. And it's crazy because that was one of the main reasons I wanted to read this book. And I feel that that was kind of misleading. And I think that publishers need to do a better job when it comes to marketing these books. Ashley has been through a lot, and I'm so glad that she shared that with us. Overall, this book is definitely worth the read. As long as you go into it not expecting this in-depth narrative of what is marketed, you'll be fine. And with all that being said, I still highly recommend you pick this one up. Okay, bestie, so you already know that the fake dating trope is always gonna hit for me because that's my favorite trope. Especially when you have a man that doesn't believe in love, doesn't want to fall in love, is like this planner, he has his life all planned out. And then a woman that is fun, spontaneous, and does believe in love. You basically have me sold. And to tell you the truth, The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa did all of that for me. And I loved it. This definitely was a fun, cute romance, and it hit all the spots for me. I had so many moments where I was laughing out loud because these characters, they are like so cute, so likable. I love them. Mia Sosa was able to deliver like all these like cute and creative scenarios that Dean and Solange took on their fake dating journey. Like, for example, one that I found very funny was when they accidentally ended up at a sex party. I also love that there were individual characters with their own individual journeys. And the character development was so relatable. I really love Solange's family and all the Brazilian culture that Miss Sosa gave. Every time it got to a part where Solange's family was there, I was just loving every moment of it. And it's all so relatable. I also love that the romance buildup, it took its time. Like, it really built up towards it.
Oh my god, I love Josh.
To sum it up, bestie, I think you should definitely pick this one up for the laughs and the Magic Mike karaoke scene alone. Bestie, listen up. If you hit this point, that means you enjoy these little talks we have. So why don't you hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notification bells, and let's officially become besties. Well, bestie, listen, okay? It's official. I am into serial killer romance.
And
This book was so chaotic, but was such a fun ride. This duology left me in need of more. Sophie Lark is a genius. She was able to give me a serial killer romance, likable characters, an amazing playlist, and the perfect balance of characterization. I got to really know these two characters individually. I got a good amount of Mara's past, her trauma, and her fears, as well as Cole's. And to tell you quite honestly, most authors don't do that for me. These characters were so complex with deep issues and traumas that were so relatable to me. Like, I pretty much related to Mara on so many levels, with the way she acts, how she reacts with the world, and how she deals with life in general. I literally loved both characters, and that's, again, like, pretty rare for an author to be able to do that for me. And let me tell you, okay, the plot had me at the edge of my seat. It was so much fun going through everything with Mara and Cole and just experiencing it all, and being able to see Mara become this badass bitch that didn't let nothing or no trauma defeat her. I was like, yes, girl, queen, slayed.
can you say 3 nice things about Nicki Minaj?
Can you?
Also, being there with Cole as he realizes that the reason he feels so empty wasn't because of human condition, but because he was missing his other half. What? That's some deep shit. And bestie, let me tell you, the smut in this was fun as hell. Listen, okay, that could say a lot about me, all right? But I don't care. I devoured every second of it. I love this book so much that I want to buy it, own it, reread it, and annotate it, okay? Sophie Lark saved me. I was once empty, but now I'm filled. And listen, bestie, I just had to go buy another Sophie Lark book. See? I was also able to read The Spite House by Johnny Compton. I felt this book started out promising, but didn't quite deliver. But wait, bestie, hear me out, okay? Because when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, haunted house story, hi, sign me up, okay? I love the premise of this and the story behind the spy house, and I really liked the whole like mystery behind it too, because it's like nobody really wanted to talk about it. Nobody really wanted to say what's been going on there or what may have happened in the past. Then things are also uncovered along the way, and that's what made me enjoy being in the spy house. I really liked Eric and both of his daughters, but I really wish that I could have had more time to connect with them. I felt like there was too many additional point of views that really could have been left out. I really wish that the author would have just focused on Eric and his daughters being the characters and things being told from their point of view. I feel like if that would have been done, I could have connected more with the characters. Then when it came down to, you know, all the secrets being uncovered and things happening within the spy house, I did kind of feel it was lackluster because, again, this was a haunted house story, and I really didn't get the sense of feeling scared or too much like eeriness behind the spy house. To me, it just kind of felt like little small moments, and that kind of killed it for me because everybody in this town is scared of this house. People literally leave, things happen that make them like basically, I guess, almost at the verge of dying. And I just kind of didn't feel that. Like, I didn't feel that sense of urgency of, oh my God, we gotta leave this house. You know what I mean? It just kind of felt bland.
Soft, bland, rubbery. Bland as anything. It is bland. Bland.
Then there's also the thing of how everybody just seems to be okay with Eric being in the spy house with his two daughters. I was just like, how is this okay? And Eric, as a parent, how are you okay with this? Even though, in his defense, you know, they are running from something, you know, and I do give Compton that, like, you do want to continue finding out more because you do want to continue to find out what it is that they're running from. Now, the thing is that the ending to me was just kind of like, okay, you know, like, I felt like there was some loose ends, some unanswered questions. And yeah, I think that the author could have done a little bit more with that. I felt like this was an impressive debut, and I highly recommend you pick it up. The only thing is that if you're a horror fan like I am, and you love haunted house stories and paranormal things, I don't know if you're gonna feel so scared or like happy with this story, but all in all, I'd still say pick it up and see how you feel. So bestie, let me hear about how February treated you. How many books did you read? Were there good ones? Are there any you recommend I read? Because you know I'm always looking to have excuses to buy more books. So far, bestie, I earned $43 for the books that I read this year. And you know what? This is pretty motivating. And it's going to be so much fun getting to see fully all the money that I made by the end of the year. If you're interested in finding out more about this reading challenge, then don't forget to check out that video. And in case if you already checked it out and you're curious about what I'll be reading next month, bestie, then definitely check out my March TBR video. I love you. Bye. But don't forget, check this out.